Hello and welcome. Thank you all for being here today. I am Nick Kanoki, Director of Technology for the Asset Leadership Network, and I'm excited for the start of the fall season here at ALN Thursday at 3. This fall season is going to focus on ISO asset management documents and special focus topics, and we'll get into that more. But if you're not familiar with the ISO documents at this point, then you're going to hear quite a lot today. First, we want to thank our patron members, Jacobs, Mantech, Onuma, ABS Quality Evaluations, and CGI, and all our organizational members that make programs like this possible. So thank you for our members. And if you're out there wondering how we could work together, please reach out. We would love to figure out the answer to that question. And now, just before we get into today's program, this is the ALN vision statement, and we have a mission, vision, and statement like many organizations, but we just wanted to take a moment to highlight ours today, equitable and sustainable businesses, institutions, and governments as kind of a driving force, an ideal that the ALN aspires to, and we hope to achieve that through working with member organizations, institutions, and governments. So Mike, do you want to talk more about ALN mission and vision?
Yeah, so since we're starting, thank you, Nick. It's good to be back on the air with you again.
You
And
as well.
since there were so many great revisions and new additions to the ISO Asset Management Library of Documents, it's fitting for our organization to reflect on its vision because we started to promote the asset management documents that ISO created. And so in the next couple of weeks, we're going to reflect on this our vision statement, our missions as a part of starting our programs and kind of remind us why we're all doing this. And it is so wonderful to be involved in a movement where it is possible to think about equitable and sustainable outcomes. And our organizations can actually achieve what seems to be impossible. But with the proper guidance, asset management can assist us achieve not only the ALN's vision, but the visions and missions of all of the organizations. So we really want to double down on that. And to start this season, we're very happy to be talking about the ISO 55000 document with some people who were helping write it. So Jack Dempsey and Annemarie Kin. So if we move, Jack Dempsey is the Senior Director for Asset Management at Lindahl now, and he is general partner of his own asset management partnership. And he has roles with the National Academy of Sciences board on constructed environment, the BICE. He's a board member there, and he's involved in the ISO. He'll talk about that. And Annemarie Kin, who's a strategic asset manager. If you go to the next slide, Nick, talks about Annemarie's Kin not only at Ennatuurlijk, but in asset management in the Netherlands and all that she's been involved with. So why don't we go ahead and ask Annemarie and Jack to join us and thank them for coming, especially Annemarie, where it's very late at night in the Netherlands, and we appreciate you taking time.
You're welcome, Mike. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, and Jack, thanks for coming back. So Annemarie, why don't we start with you and give us a little introduction on how you got where you're at right now in your asset management journey and what you've done with the ISO 55000 document.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, it started quite unusual, I reckon. I studied at the University of Maastricht, international business, so I wasn't really into the technical part yet, which came about in 2009 when a huge industry complex in the south of the Netherlands were having a contract for managing agent situation for asset management. All the outside battery limits assets were outsourced to a partner, and that was certified for plus 55 by my doings. And that was the first of the Netherlands. So that was quite interesting, which made me all of a sudden the asset management expert of the Netherlands.
Well,
So,
we're doubly glad
yeah.
to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Well, yeah, no, I'm a bit exaggerating, of course, but it was the first, so many people wanted to know more about it and how we did it, so I could help more companies or organizations achieve that certification, which was first plus 55 and later on ISO 55000. In 2016, I joined together with Jack the ISO committee by joining the national standard body in the Netherlands. So is that a bit of an introduction? What
that is perfect. Thank you so much. Jack, what are you up to these days? There's been a little bit of change with you.
Yeah, I mean, asset management is exciting stuff. I have recently joined full-time with Lindahl Reed, a small business with the mothership out in Bend, Oregon, and also now an office in DC. So it's a small powerhouse organization that focuses on basically just generating value. And now we're leading the charge in asset management capability development, covering a wide range of sectors. From federal to public. So it's pretty exciting business. And just kind of like what Annemarie said is, once you start kind of swimming around the pool, you soon start developing skills and abilities, and people start looking for help. And that's what we're doing here at Lindahl Reed.
Excellent. So how did you bring those skills and abilities to the revision of ISO 55000? And what do you see as being, well, let's talk about your role there. Annemarie, what was your role in the?
Well, when I started in 2016, we started with rewriting or revising 55002, the guidance to the requirements. And later on, I guided some ad hoc groups, we call them. There are also working groups who do a little topics, extra white paper, or maybe a technical specification if pleased. And we did that on value and decision-making criteria. And then I joined the 55001 up until the 55000 was available for convenership.
And Jack, what was your role in the 55000 revision?
Similar activities, kind of was leading up the product improvement work group, and that kind of evolved into a starter set of the 55000, some of the other standards, and then have been a participant in lots of different levels. I mean, I think one thing to say about the ISO 55000 community, the standards-based community, is it's just a great network of leading experts all around the world, bouncing ideas off of one another, and really trying to make the standards a good product for the rest of the world. I mean, just trying to help people move forward, and it was exciting to be part of that. Annemarie was the convener, so she was kind of leading the charge on that, which is at times a stressful activity, but gaining consensus across a number of different countries and perspectives is no small feat. So really kudos to Annemarie in bringing this standard to a completion that we can all be proud of.
Well, thank you, Annemarie. And can you tell us what you think are some of the significant revisions?
Yes, I can. Yeah, as Jack said, it was quite since when the first standard was launched, we were quite early in the development of asset management. Not for all of us, but for the worldwide public, it wasn't very familiar.
Yes.
It still was maintenance management, RAMS engineering. I assume your audience know RAMS engineering, but you can look it up. It's maintenance next level, but the next level of maintenance. Well, we tried first to make that asset management, like a huge body of knowledge was getting ready. And now after 10 years from 2014 till now, after 10 years, we had a lot of experience and a lot of added experts actually around the world who joined the community and had different opinions, different visions, and how it works with people. So once you think that's the route, but then the next time it will be different. And so we added a lot of extra knowledge to the standard. And I think that's why the fundamentals changed a bit. And also in the modern times, we see we see a lot of information management, and we try to reduce the amount of asset management system, which was first the center of the family of standards, still is actually, but we reduce it in the OO more with the added value that is the philosophy behind the asset management requirements.
Yes, the 55,000 document is based on that philosophy, the why. Why would you be doing this? And there was just a little bit of change. Do you want to talk a little bit to that change?
Of the principles? Yes, sure. So first we had the fundamentals, value, alignment, leadership, and assurance. And they were really embedded in the community already. So we had very much difficulties and different opinions on should we change it, should we add things, shouldn't we? So there was a lot of discussion, but we chose to change one of the fundamentals to an outcome, because assurance is actually the basics of a management system. You want a management system to make sure things happen the way you intend to, and make the improvement cycle running. So that's what assurance was put as an outcome. As we center around value, the value assets bring, and which can also be which can be everything the organization would want to extract from the assets. Value still is core number one, and leadership. Without the leadership, it won't work, and we have lots of examples of that already. So that are still the principles for So what was it? Value, leadership, and alignment. Getting the strategic plan down to the operations. So that still are the principles, and then the outcomes are the sought for which brings the asset management system, once installed and implemented, brings. So that's assurance, the adaptability and sustainability, because it's inherent in doing asset management.
Can you expand a little bit on that leadership comment? Because we're not the asset management network, we're the asset leadership network.
Oh, okay. Yes, I can. I've seen. My career is now 15 years old, and I've seen a lot of companies trying to get asset management running from bottom up. Being a maintenance department or a bit more, maybe also some product management activities, but the main course is doing with the assets. But without the leadership, having commitment for a management system, making improvements, making it visible, and getting the data you need, having the teams you need, having the competences and the capabilities you need, it will never work. It will never work.
Yes.
And I failed numerous times.
Because the leadership was not involved.
Yeah, because leadership said, okay, we have an asset management department, let's leave it at that. But he has to walk the talk as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jack, do you want to add anything to what Annemarie said?
I think, I mean, what Annemarie is showing is kind of like a first person witness to a very significant evolution. We all are familiar with the crawl, walk, run kind of continuum. And, preceding the ISO 55,000 standards was PAS 55, and many of the people watching this will be familiar with that, Public Availability Standards 55 from the British Specification Institute, I think BSI. And they really established a kind of a beachhead in terms of maintenance management of assets and the relationship that has to an organization. The 55,000 standards really kind of, brought that ahead and focused more on the value proposition, and started introducing very important concepts. And that was the 2014 version of the standards. And as Annemarie's kind of eloquently describing, is we took that from kind of a crawl to definitely a walk, moving into a run stage. So, to the point on the leadership, it's not just about people knowing what to do and being told what to do and kind of coordinating that. It's really about a vision forward of how do these assets support the outcomes of the organization. So that's reflected in the principles, being kind of first principles, things that have to happen as far as making asset management happen. And then the recognition of the outcomes is really what we're trying to achieve here. Was subtle, but actually a very significant advancement in the thought process. And, it's pretty exciting where all this is going with, and I think the rest of the series here will cover additional standards that were released in new. We'll hear a lot more about that, but it's really opening up the floodgates on how value can be generated from asset management as a kind of full court press, an entire organization perspective that has to be led from the top.
Excellent. And we're getting some comments that is agreeing that leadership buy-in. Thank you, Obad. Yeah. And then Sophie, you've got a hand up. If you have a question, you can enter it into the chat. And if anyone is dying to talk, we might go into overtime and allow other people to make some comments. So stick around for that. Jack, you were very involved in using ISO 55,000 series of documents with organizations. So you've got hands-on experience. How do you think this new version is going to help allow organizations to improve in new or better ways?
Well, I mean, there's many. And I think Annemarie's kind of pointed to some of those, but I think at a basic level, the points of emphasis, the first version came through is really ISO 55001 centric. So Annemarie was talking about it being a management system or asset management system, which was really a list of shelf statements, things that need to be done. It's kind of technical. Some countries and organizations use that as kind of a regimen to ensure that there's a level of competency. It's a development of capability competencies. Where we went with with this version, the 55,000 starts talking more about the broader perspective, the context where that happens, and that's no trivial feat. It involves people participating in the activity, understanding how to participate in the activity. Clarity. I mean, I think Annemarie made a good example that's very common and too common really today, is that, asset management is somebody's job, assign it to this department and then they'll do that. When the reality is it's about everybody getting together, communicating, managing risk, making good investment decisions. And, Annemarie already also brought up the fact that, one of the evolutionary parts of this is the concept of maturity. It's a journey. So you start where you are, you start learning, you start moving forward. And then also the respect or understanding that there's frameworks. It's not just about a bunch of good ideas or principles, that it really will evolve into methodology, process, to be consistent in moving things forward. But lots of moving parts. But I think probably the biggest thing that's exciting is the recognition that, asset management is a group activity. And involves, it's led from leaders from the top that have to understand where the direction of the organization is going, and then involving people in that process to generate value. And then the rest of the story gets told really in the 55,001 standard.
Well, that's excellent insight that really emphasizes what Annemarie was saying about if leaders aren't involved, then it's not going to succeed. And one of the things that I think is very fortuitous with the development of the ISO asset management standard is also the evolution of this tool, the cell phones. Everybody understands how this allows information to be shared in new and different ways. And it actually dramatically changes the way organizations operate. And it's not just the cell phone, it's the representation of the cell phone, of the dramatic evolution of tools that allow the communication that you said is critical in this. So with ISO 55000 emphasizing that, I think that's this revised version really drives home what the international asset management movement can achieve.
Yes.
I see you nodding. Would you like to say what you're nodding about there, Annemarie?
Yeah. Well, if when in 2014 it was said that information management, starting with an information management system, was a good idea, we came back from that because it doesn't solve all your problems. But now getting the decision-making criteria more and more important, and getting solid proof of achieving those performance indicators, that will definitely help the asset management profession.
So you were a leader in introducing use of ISO 55000 in the Netherlands. How do you see these revised documents assisting you in being able to achieve what is clearly a passion for you, to spread the word of asset management?
Well, thank you for noticing that it's a passion of me, and that's largely because of the outcome of sustainability. You must approve as well. But the series is helping it. Well, I just joined, I already joined for 1.5 years or something, a new company where I'm a strategic asset manager. And I actually gave the 55,000 prematurely to the directors to read, to see if, because that's the point of the 55,000, to get it abroad for, management levels, not too technical maybe, but consultant levels, the levels of the people that, we have to do something with it, but I'm not sure what. Yeah, and this helps enormously. They recognize the journey you have to go through, the the management system, the quality management system, like PDCA, of course, in there. They recognize that. They see that there is need for more, and that asset management is not it's maybe a bit of as we said, a philosophy. I wanted to say religion, but that's a bit too strong.
Oh, it is. It is a religion. I talk about quoting chapter and verse. And so, yes, it's a theocracy, at least. One of the things that I think is beneficial is the focus on outcomes. And Jack, you've been saying that about your clients for a long time, is helping them focus on that their interest is focusing on outcomes. And it's good to see that embodied in this document. How do you see you being able to use the new document to help leaders, like Annemarie said, buy into the philosophy?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point. I mean, I'm one of many who like to say asset management is really all about outcomes. I mean, why do we do this? Why do we have assets? These things are bothersome. They take time and energy. There should be some value here. And I think there's 2 points, and it's maybe a good distinction to make with the standard. There was a tremendous amount of conversation and debate around the definition of the word value. And I mean, Annemarie could speak at length of how complicated that conversation could really be, but it really focused on what really is the essence of the standard, is value, and value becomes what's important to the end consumer, to the stakeholders involved that are dependent on the performance of these assets, and these assets, just helping them get things done. So the standard basically frames the definition of value around, what the stakeholder wants, what the stakeholder needs. Now, there's a context to that on these assets are performing a role within the organization, and they perform in certain ways that have to be managed and all that kind of stuff. So that's all kind of baked into that. So you take that concept of value as a very dynamic and evolving, constantly evolving concept, and then we graduated into from the four fundamentals into 3 principles and 3 outcomes. And the outcomes, and Annemarie listed them before: assurance, sustainability, and adaptability. So the performance of asset management, the practice of asset management, is really about gaining consistency, communications, being responsive to changes in the environment, understanding that there's a broader purpose in what everything's coming together, and understanding that those are outcomes. Now, exactly how value is defined in terms of each one of these outcomes is dependent on the end user. So if you're a production-oriented company, maybe throughput is important. If you're a service-oriented company, brand and client expectations or satisfaction is an important asset in terms of what you're establishing. So it leaves the opening to be broadly interpreted, but the tools of what the standard is saying is really trying to it's a toolbox that is trying to help organizations just simply get better outcomes.
Excellent. Annemarie, in terms of the religion, our colleagues at the Asset Management Council asked me to write a why statement about why we do our value and benefits from asset management web series with the Asset Management Council. And I said, we are facing a world of problems as a single human race. And it seems crazy to think that one thing can help everyone. But if every organization in the world improves the management of their assets, we may have a chance. We may not, but we haven't heard anything as clearly and concisely stated as what was just said. So until we learn about something else, we're running full speed ahead with asset management. And can't think of a religion that has anything, that's a religion right there. So
Yeah.
Good question, Annemarie. I mean, you made the point earlier that asset management and sustainability really kind of go hand in hand, and that there's a kind of an agreement between those two. And I think, in a lot of the conversations when we're developing the standard, those kind of trade-offs or playoffs were part of that. That might be of interest to others, understanding that relationship and how that expands.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very proud it is in the document as an outcome. Yeah, there was a lot of discussion because we all agreed that value was supposed to be defined by the organizations and that apply asset management, and sustainability was one of the value contributions. So it shouldn't be in the standard per se. But along the way, we realized, one, for modern concerns, because it's a modern concern of all of us, that sustainability is an important part of our doing business. And secondly, because we agreed that life cycle management, one of the key pillars of asset management, is actually managing sustainable, making use of the resources already in use the best you can with the most value you can, and that is life cycle management. And well, for that, it is an outcome inherent to asset management, I would say.
And I love the format of ISO standards. They're not prescriptive.
No.
Your definition of what you want to sustain could be different than what I want to sustain. I want to make sure my business stays in business. But if you're a government entity, you might want to sustain the playground equipment so that children for many generations are able to use that playground equipment. And if you're in forestry management, that's a whole different concept of what sustainability is. But I'm glad that it is one of the outcomes of asset management, and it's definitively listed as so.
Yeah, me too. Hooray.
So we don't want to keep any of the audience members longer than they should. So Nick, we're not going to necessarily have a closing slide. Let's just say that this is now over. Anybody that needs to leave can leave. All right. So now that the official program is over, let's really say what happened. Okay. Can we talk about what was really important and what were the things that people were fighting for, and what do you feel the consensus process resulted in? Because I didn't get involved. I don't have the temperament to be involved in the type of discussions that you were having. And Annemarie, you were leading them. What do you think was the result of all these people putting in their personalities?
The mean question, isn't it, Jack?
Yeah, that's was it white smoke or gray smoke coming out of the smokestack sometimes, but I mean, Annemarie, I'm sure you got some. Go list out some. I can
Yeah. Well,
contribute.
it is kind of painful sometimes, isn't it? Yeah, but I'm sure you all have similar processes or encounters with people that you think, but how can it happen that they think like this? And then you have to discuss it and not trying to convince anybody about your opinion, and because I'm the convener, I shouldn't anyway. So, but that was very harsh sometimes, because you couldn't understand that they had a different perspective, and you try to understand, but it's and you're afraid that the message that you get out is too much then that distorted than the way you feel it should happen. So it is kind of difficult. That's process, true.
Well,
But
there's
it
also
got stronger. Yeah.
that's what I
Yeah.
wanted to talk about.
It is like everywhere, diversity is helping getting it better, drafting it better, getting understanding of each other, and making, is that the trick? I didn't notice because I was fully into it, but I didn't know that I was lacking leadership. I didn't know I was you're making a system which was too rigid, that it couldn't be adaptable or something, because I was too much inflicted into it. And explaining asset management for years made me have to change a few times my philosophy about asset management.
Well, I'm glad you got something out of it, because
Yeah,
you put a lot of hard work into it. So I'm glad that helped you. But
it provided me with a beautiful network too. I wouldn't have met Jack, for instance, and that would be a shame. So I had lots of beautiful colleagues that learned me a lot. Yeah.
Well, good.
Yeah.
So in the art world, they say that, without pain, you don't get great art.
Yeah.
And I really think the ISO documents are artful. And then there's the whole metallurgy, analogy. In order to forge hard metal, you have to temper it with heat. So I see that even though I couldn't go through it, I really appreciate the efforts of those who have. And we're here to help promote your efforts. So
Thank
I
you
guess,
so much.
how about an easier question than that? What would you like to see as an outcome of the efforts that you put in?
Well, when you get into asset management, maybe you notice as well that it largely carried by maintenance management, and maintenance management people are never listened to because they are costs. And it still is that way 10 years later, that I really would appreciate if people could, extract the value like we promote in our standards, like see the value of your assets, how you can measure it, how it is improved, and so that for the asset management side. And for the other side, I would really love that asset management as a profession is viewed as a profession for it for first, but not a silo on its own, but having, that people see that knowledge is power, but it is only when it is shared. And I think that is the main key for good asset management.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Jack?
So good.
Oh, go ahead, Nick.
Oh, there was just a question that I didn't want to miss from the crowd. How does one create an asset management leadership in reverse in a crisis management situation that we typically experience in developing countries? Good question.
Good question.
I mean, I'll offer on that. I mean, it's really kind of about culture. I mean, there's values, organizations value certain things. Just to Annemarie's point, valuing knowledge, valuing information from the people who are making things work. So I think there's an element in terms of culture, and the practice of asset management helps, break down some of those barriers, the communications, trying to understand different points of view. I mean, the financial manager and the operations manager and the engineer aren't always going to agree on the best course of action. And asset management is really about trying to figure out how to balance those different perspectives and come to a better outcome overall. So I think in terms of, under crisis management or, I guess kind of reverse engineering, how do you get to asset leadership? I think, there's definitely a top-down version where leaders have to lead. They have to have vision. They have to have an appreciation and understanding that it's a collective activity, but pointing to the priorities and objectives and kind of moving things forward. But they also have, I think, a responsibility to support the development of culture, airing of different perspectives, understanding risk from different perspectives. And as Annemarie outlined when we developed the standard, I mean, there's a lot of passion in that. I mean, there was crying and hugging and crying again and stuff like that, trying to figure out how to get it work. But I think the outcome of that was, one, respecting other points of view, trying to find the bare minimum that really most people can make useful, and then allowing that to evolve and nurture. So I don't think there's necessarily a formula for the reverse engineering of that. But I do think it has a lot to do with asset management and the focus on asset management culture and the appreciation of perspectives and using those perspectives to come to a better outcome.
Can I add something?
Please.
Maybe also the maturity vision and the maturity management vision that we promote in the OO, or the maturity model, that you start with crisis management actually when you're quite unaware of every capability you have, and maybe that helps with stepping forward, getting from the small improvement circle to a larger. So small baby steps first, like you always do, and crisis management is happening in many organizations still, also here in the Netherlands, that because assets sometimes are not on the top of the mind of management. And once it gets there, then you can make small baby steps to improve it and get the minimum data you need to make the first step.
Well, that does make
Makes
a lot
sense?
of, yes, it
Okay.
does. Everybody is facing crisis of some type or another, almost always. And if leadership is aware of the 55,000 document, like you have shared with your leader, then when the crisis comes, there's a foundation of knowledge of how to address this and how to take corrective actions.
Yes. Yes.
And Jack, I love that your response to the question looked at culture, because as I said earlier, we're the asset leadership network, not the asset management network. And the tools work, the processes work. It isn't that, it's the human behavior that needs to continually improve. And when you're talking about human behavior, then you're talking about an organization driven from the leadership to change the human behavior of their organization. And that's why I was on the soapbox about asset management helping all organizations with the proper leadership, instilling that continual improvement philosophy will benefit all. And if, yeah.
Yeah. I fully agree.
Well, Annemarie, do you want to make any closing statement about the document and the efforts that you put in?
No, no, please download it. Go for it and then make it work. Join the journey.
We are here to help support you in that effort, for sure.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Jack?
Well, I mean, first of all, just thank ALN for putting on these activities, spreading the word about asset management. It is really a conversation, and also want to recognize Annemarie's leadership. I mean, she really took the helm at a time when it was very challenging to do so. I think her temper and kind of understanding of how to navigate those waters really led to a very fruitful outcome. And I think, this standard is probably going to be good for at least 5, maybe another 10 years. And I think, what Annemarie and the rest of the team there at TC 251 has done, they should be very proud of. And just ask people who are involved. They would be happy to tell you more of the story and how it might be helpful to you.
Excellent. Well, we echo that appreciation of Annemarie, so thank you. And thank you, Jack. You're always the driving force in anything that you're involved with.
Well, yeah, I would say so. Without good foundations, it wouldn't have been this far. Yeah, thank you, Jack.
And we appreciate you sharing your insights, and we'll have them recorded and posted. So people who weren't here, you can share this and let them know about it. And before we close out, thanking our members, I want to say that next week we'll be talking about ISO 55001 and the way those documents have changed, that document had changed. And then throughout this fall, we're going to be talking about 55,011, 12, and 13. And we're going to be interspersed with programs about things like a paper on water asset management in the United States at the state level. A member of the ALN, who is also a member of the IAM, wrote a paper, and we're in the process of co-publishing it to get it out to a lot of people. And we're going to be having interviews with member organizations. We've got a values and benefits from asset management program coming up. And in November 13th, we're going to be meeting in person on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. And our members and supporters have the ability to add to activities the day before, the day after. We're looking for input on that. And we actually are kind of booked with our ALN Thursday at 3. So we probably be having some Tuesday at 2 programs or some other types of programs in addition to this. So keep an eye out to subscribe to our newsletter and check out our website. Thank you to all of our attendees. And again, thank you, Annemarie and Jack and Nick. Thanks for driving the show.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
And thank you, Nick.
All right, bye for now, everyone. See you
Bye-bye.
next week.
Bye, Jack.
Bye-bye. We'll talk soon.
Me too.